Hello everyone, so today I'm going to be teaching you how to use mathematical operations on variables. Now, I may have gone over some of them, like in really short little tips, I guess, if anything, but today I'm going to go in depth and teach you each operation. Now, there are more than just like the basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division signs. There are also modulus and things like that we will be getting into, as well as multiple equals, minus equals, plus equals, and divide equals. So yeah, let's just get started. First we're going to, of course, say return 0, and then up above that we're going to make just an integer variable that we'll call I and set equal to 10. That way we have a nice number to work with. Now down here we'll do just a normal I is equal to I plus 1. Now obviously you would think, okay, well, we're setting I to equal whatever I is plus 1, so it should equal 11. Alright, so now if we make a printf statement, format it as a modulus D, and then say that we want to use I, if we go to the end, put a semicolon, and run and compile all of this, then we should get 11. Awesome, we get 11. Everything worked out how we thought. So that's essentially how you can use addition. We could, instead of saying 1, we could say I. We could actually double it. We could say I plus I, which is 10 plus 10, which then makes it equal to 20. Awesome. This is working out pretty good for us so far. So what if we want to do this in like shorter code? Well, there's actually something called the plus equals, which we can do by just stating I plus equals I. So what does this do? Well, it says I is equal to itself plus whatever else we put. So I is plus equals I, and that gives us 20. Awesome, this is pretty easy. Now, the reason that this is useful is because, again, it shortens your code, and you can be less redundant. You don't have to say like over and over again, like each time it loops, you don't want your code to have to do something like I equals I plus I, because when something compiles, if the shorter the code, the shorter amount of time it's going to take for it to compile. When you get to really long programs, it's going to take time to compile hundreds of lines of code or even thousands of lines of code. So plus equals is always nice, and you don't have to use a variable. You can, just like anything else, use normal numbers. So we could say I plus equals 8, which should leave us with 18. Compile a run, we get 18. Awesome. Okay. So what would the other operations be? Well, now let's go to the minus. We could say I is equal to I minus 8. Now this again would leave us with 2. Awesome. It worked. Now again, we have another operator for this. We can just say minus equals 8. Now what this would do is just the exact same thing. It would basically substitute that code with I equals I minus 8. So we again get 2. We can use variables in here as well, so we could say I minus equals I, which would leave us with 0 because we're taking away I, which in that case this would be faster just to say minus equals instead of saying equals, or no, it would be faster just to say I equals 0 instead of I is equal to I minus I, or I minus equals I, which would, still equal 0. So it's better just to have it set to whatever value you want it to, if you know for sure what value it's going to end up being. If you have to use variables, it's better to do like minus equals or plus equals. Alright, so what's next? We have multiplication. Yay! Okay. So with multiplication, you could do something just like I equals I times 2. And this will give us 20. So we'll compile a run, we get 20. Perfect. So is there a times equal? Well, times equal to, compile a run, and we get 20. So yeah, there actually is one. You can basically do this type of operation with every operator. Now, the reason that I need to go over this is because a lot of people don't really look at these. Some people also, just for like a little tidbit of information, some people will call these assignment operators because you're assigning the value to equal something. Even though you're performing a mathematical operation, some people will refer to as an assignment because you're assigning the value. However, I would just call it a mathematical operation or operating on something. Now what's next? Well, we still have division. So I equals I divided by 2. And this should give us a nice little 5. And it does. Cool. And can we use divide equals? Yep. So I divide equals 2 is basically I is equal to I divided by 2. So 5. Great. Now, what else is there? Because there's actually another operator. This operator is probably what you started using without realizing it when you were in elementary school. If they ever went over division with you and they said, okay, if you divide and it doesn't divide neatly, then you have a remainder of whatever. Well, that is actually called the modulus operator, which turns out to be a percent symbol. So what we could do is say I is equal to I modulus 3. So 3 will fit into 10 3 times with a remainder of 1. So this will actually return 1. And we get 1. So where would this be useful? A lot of the times when I see this, it's to check if a number is odd or even. And using this, you can actually make a function that can determine whether or not a number is prime. Now, it's really up to you, however that information could be useful to you, depending on what program you're making. But it's really nice to always know, hey, there's an operator I can use that will make it so I don't have to do some long function with division in order to get the remainder of something. Now if we used 2 here, we'd get 0 because there's no remainder after 10 is being divided by 0. It can go in an even amount of times. Now, how can we use the modulus equals? Just like everything else basically. Modulus equals 2 should give us 0, and we get 0. Try it with 3 and we should get 1, and we get 1. Great. Excuse me. And that's really all there is for that. One more thing I want to tell you guys is that you can actually perform it in the printf function. So if you don't want to actually change the value of I and you just want to say something is equal to I plus 1, you could go into the printf function, and where you format it, %d to I, you can say I plus 1, which in this case should give us 11, and it prints out 11. So if you want, you can perform the function or operation in the printf statement. One more thing I actually did forget is that there are increment and decrement operations that you can do. Now, if you wanted to, you can actually do this outside of a printf statement. You could do something like I plus plus. Now if we compile and run, oops. Actually, I think I'm wrong about this. Nope. Okay, it did work. So as long as you remember your semicolon, always remember semicolons, children. It helps all of your code. Anyways, so now we see we actually have 11. Everything worked out fine. So instead of saying like I plus equals 2, we can just say I plus plus. Now if we did I plus 2 semicolon, compile and run, nothing happens because we didn't set the value to equal that. So if you wanted to add 2, you would have to do something like plus equals 2. One more thing, I'll just show you guys. If you do like equals plus 2 and compile, you'll just get it equaling 2. So that doesn't work as like an assignment mathematical operation. Another thing you can do is decrement, which is minus minus, which decrements it by 1. So we would get, oops, wrong button. We would get 9. And one more thing, when we get into loops, you're actually going to need to know when to use these. You can use it before you say the variable or after it. And what I mean is you could say plus plus I or I plus plus. The difference is whether or not you want it to do that before it loops or before you perform a function. So we can do it right here. We could say I plus plus, compile run, and we get 10. But we incremented it by 1. What happened? Well, basically, we said we want to format it as I, and then add 1 to it. We want to increment it after we've already done this function. So that's, you may want to say I plus plus afterwards, and then if we did another printf statement and formatted I out of there, semicolon, compile run, and we get, oops, let me put a new line here so that looks better. And we get 10 the first time, but 11 the second time, because it did it afterwards. Now, if we wanted to, we could say plus plus I, which would give us 11 right off the bat, instead of 10. Awesome. So that's pretty much increment and decrement. Minus minus works the same way as plus plus. So if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and leave them in the comment section below, or PM me. If you just have any comments about the video, feel free to leave those in the comment section below, because those always help. Subscribe if you want to see future videos. Like the video if you liked it, and I'll be seeing you guys later.